Good evening. My name is Robert Shapiro. I'm a certified assistant county assessor with the Assessment Review Commission. I would like to thank the Town of Oyster Bay Receiver of Taxes, Jeff Privado, for inviting me to speak with you today to help you to learn how to file a grievance online for free without the need to hire a company to do it for you. At this time, we're going to turn the microphone over to Mr. Privado for a few opening remarks.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Receiver of Taxes, Jeff Privado, and thank you for joining us this evening. And I want to especially thank the Assessment Review Commission here, Rob Shapiro, and our new county executive, Bruce Bladen, for allowing them to help us out here today. So what we're going to show you is how to grieve your assessment. So just the Receiver of Taxes is, you know, what I do. I collect the taxes. The county assessment department, they're the ones that assess your property. So they're going to help you out tonight to help you reduce your assessment. We're going to go through a lot of information tonight. You can type your questions in. Rob will go through everything that you can do. And I might jump in every once in a while, but Rob's going to give a great presentation here. And if you have any other questions regarding this, you can always call the Assessment Review Commission's office, or if need be, you can call my office at 624-6400 in the town of Oyster Bay. So Rob, I'm going to turn it right back over to you.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Privado. As you're watching the presentation, please take advantage of the Q&A feature. Again, we're going to answer the questions at the end of the presentation, but while you think of the question, type it in right away. We have some staff who may be able to send you messages to throughout the presentation to help you out with those questions. If there's anything that's very property specific, we ask that you contact our customer service staff. We'll have all that contact information at the end of the broadcast. One more thing, I want to let you know the reason we do the Q&A like this is because there's a delay between when we say things and when we show things and when you actually hear them. There's about a 30 or 40-second delay. So there is a reason that we wait to take all the questions until the end. Okay, so we are the Assessment Review Commission, and our job is to review grievances. And this presentation is going to show you how to file an appeal of your assessed value. You do not file a grievance of your taxes. You're appealing your assessed value. And we're going to show you tonight how to do this yourself. There are companies out there, you see the advertisements on TV telling you that they have great success, they can save you money. These companies don't work for free. Many use a flat fee. Some take a percentage of any savings you get. When you do this yourself, all the money goes to you. Any money that you save as a result of filing an appeal, that all goes to you. So we're going to show you how. Once you've learned, it only takes 15, 20 minutes to do this yourself. And again, if you have any questions, let us know. So you're looking at our page.
Hey, Rob,
yes, please go ahead.
So like what Rob is saying, you got to put the work in to do it. You know, I've heard people say, well, you know, I grieve, but then I hire the company and they always get me a reduction. You know, it's like if you just go get your 3 comps and you submit it and you don't put any of the work in, it's not going to work right. You know, they're getting paid by you to get them a reduction, so they got to put a lot of work into it. Rob's going to go through a lot of stuff. There's a lot of really great things that he's going to talk about, and we're going to talk about how to do it and do it on your own and save yourself, you know, paying them a 40, 50% fee and doing it. So Rob, I'll just throw it right back to you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Okay, so we are looking at our homepage, and again, it's askarcnassau.com. You'll notice on our homepage right at the top, there's a video. That is a 6.5-minute version of this presentation. It is always there. So I know there's also a video on the Town of Oyster Bay website that Jeff has done. You can look at their video as well. Our video is always here, and it will talk you through the process. On the right-hand side of the screen, you'll notice it says ARC 2023-2024 brochure. If you click on that, you can download our latest brochure. It has lots of important information, has our address, our phone number, our email address, has all the important dates, including the fact that the filing period has been extended. Originally, the filing period was January 3rd through March 1st. It has now been extended to May 2nd. Very important. Although it's been extended, please do not wait until the last minute. There's no reason to wait. We're going to show you how to do this tonight. You can get it done in a timely fashion and just sit back and relax while everyone else rushes to do it at the end. So this brochure's got some great information. You can download it, print it out, keep it handy. Let's continue, shall we? Okay, we're going to be talking a lot about Arrow tonight. Arrow stands for Assessment Review on the Web, and you can get there one of two ways. From the ARC page, you can go on the left where it says Arrow, or you can go there by clicking on or typing in www.nassaucounty.ny.gov/ARC/Arrow. That'll bring you to the Arrow page. Again, it's Assessment Review on the Web. Now, this is your first time in the Arrow system. You're going to need to register. So on the left, you'll notice it says Register on the Web. You're going to click on that. You need to fill out all the information with an asterisk. So first name, last name, street address, city, state, and zip code, phone number, very important. Now, it says there, ARC is now offering the option of receiving electronic or paper notifications for offers and determinations. That means we can either contact you by email or regular mail. We strongly suggest you use the electronic version you get for email. You get responses faster. Nothing gets lost in the mail. It saves the county money because we're not spending money on paper and postage. One thing I could advise you is if you choose to get email sent to you, every so often check your spam folder to make sure our emails aren't going to your spam folder. At that point, you're going to enter an email address. If you've been in Arrow before and you've already registered, it's important to check your registration information from last year. If you were at one job and moved to a different job, you want to make sure that the email address is current, or if you went from FiOS to Opt Online, same thing. You want to make sure it's an accurate email address. You're going to choose a username and a password. It's case sensitive, so be careful when you type that you know what you're typing in and write it down somewhere. You'll read through the bottom statements and click Complete Registration. If all goes well, you will have a message saying thank you for registering. Please click here to continue. Now, if you're all done, if this is all you're doing for now, make sure you log out. Every time you're done, you should log out, especially if you're not using your own computer. If you're borrowing a relative's or if you're using the library computer, make sure you log out every time. You're also going to get a confirmation email sent to the address you used to register. So again, if you don't get that email, double check your spam folder to make sure you're getting our emails. Next time you want to go visit Arrow, you would click on the Login tab and enter your username and password to get to your account homepage. So you see we have a username, password. We click Login. And now you'll notice towards the bottom where it says Welcome to Arrow Assessment Review on the Web, it says John Smith, which is the name we used to register. If you're doing this, the name you used to register, probably your own name, should be right there where it says John Smith, and that's how you know you're in your account. We're going to talk for a while about Sales Locator. Now, ARC has provided a Sales Locator tool to assist you in filling out your application form. It is only able to be used for single-family, two-family, or three-family homes. Sales Locator does not work with condos or co-ops. Now, what Sales Locator does is provides adjusted sale prices of properties that are comparable to yours. And we'll discuss in a little bit what it means to be comparable. And this can help you determine if your property is currently overvalued. Because if you're overvalued, that means your assessed value is too high, which could potentially lead to paying higher taxes. To file an appeal with the assistance of a Sales Locator, you could either click on the bottom where it says, do you have a good case for filing an appeal? Or there's a link on the left-hand side that says Sales Locator. You just click on that. Our next step is to find your property. You can either use your section, block, and lot, or use your address. Most people don't remember their section, block, and lot and couldn't find it. I've worked for ARC for 3 years now. I couldn't tell you my section, block, and lot. So we're going to use an address. So in property search, you're going to add the number of your house, You're going to put the street name. Don't put avenue, street, or court. Just put the name of the street. The reason for that is, say your address in our example is Christie Street, and we put STREET. But in the system, it's Christie Street, just ST. It will not find your property. So just put the name. You're going to put a city, a zip code, click search, and if all goes well, it will find your property. And once it finds your property, you will click on the parcel ID. At this point, we have a little test to make sure that you are not a robot. So there's letters and or numbers in the black box. You're going to retype those in the white box next to it and click continue. And if you do it correctly, you will see your house. So in our example, we have our property is 504 Christie Street in Hempstead. It's a one-family house. It is located in the Rockville Central School District, not in a village, and it's located in the town of Hempstead. On the right-hand side, it says Assessment Information 2023-2024. The appeal period, January 3rd to March 1st. And you'll notice again, we have a reminder that filing period has been extended to May 2nd. If you go down to the bottom, it says taxable market value, $467,000. That is the value that the Department of Assessment has assigned to your property. They're saying, effective as of the valuation date of January 3rd, 2022, your home was worth $467,000. And that translates to an assessed value of $467. That 467 figure, that is what is used to calculate your taxes. They take that assessed value, they multiply that by the tax rates, and come up with your actual taxes. So that's why you are grieving, you are filing an appeal to get your assessed value, the market value and assessed value lowered. All right, let's look to the left-hand side where it says property information or dwelling information. We're going to take a closer look at that. So you notice it says style, Cape, talks about the year built, lot size is 7735, living area, 1,332 square feet. Living area is the size of your home. So it's typically first floor, if there's a second floor, possibly if there's a third floor. It typically does not include anything below grade like a basement. We have 2 full baths. We have 1 half bath, a 1-car garage, and a basement. Now, if any of the information you see is incorrect, you have the ability to change that. You would click where it says change values. And if you look on the right, it now lets you modify those numbers. So in our example, it says full bath 2. We say that it's actually supposed to be 1 full bath. You would change it to 1, and you would click apply changes. For the rest of Sales Locator, it would show you having only 1 full bath. It's very important to understand that the change you make is only in Sales Locator. It does not make a permanent change. For anything that needs to be changed that's incorrect, if they have you having 4 bathrooms, you only have 2, you need to contact the Department of Assessment. Their phone number is on the screen, 516-571-1500. You would make arrangements for them to either come out to your home or do a drive-by, depending on whether it's an inside thing or an outside thing. If it's an inside thing, like how many bathrooms, they will probably arrange to have an inspector come to your home and do an inspection. We often get asked at this point, well, if they come to look at how many bathrooms I have, is there a chance they're going to see how many kitchens I have? And if I have, 2 or 3. I cannot speak on behalf of the Department of Assessment because it's a separate department. However, there is a chance that if they come to see something you want them to see, they may see something you don't want them to see. That's entirely up to you. You make that call. If it's something exterior like a garage, there's a good chance they'll just drive by your house and take a photo and they'll see that there's no more garage. But again, anything permanent you need to get changed has to go through the Department of Assessment. We'll have their phone number and contact info at the end of the presentation. We're going to continue on without making changes, so we'll click Find Sales, which is on the left and circled in red. And now you see Sales Locator is presenting us with sales. The very top property, that's our subject. That's 504 Christie. It's there to make the comparison easy. Sales Locator is showing sales based on distance to our home. So you'll notice as you go down the list, the sales get further away. You may also notice that there are sales that are showing that are located in different towns. Our subjects in Hempstead, there are sales here in South Hempstead, Rockville Center. The reason for that is Sales Locator looks for homes that are located in the same school district. A major factor when people are buying homes is school districts, not only for the quality of education, but also because it's going to impact how much you're paying in school taxes.
Hey,
So
Rob.
when you look at these, oh, Jeff, please come on in.
Yeah, sorry.
No, please.
I just wanted to jump in quickly here with the question I've been getting asked a lot is, I've done the in-person one yesterday was, with the way the home sales have been lately, I think you'd have to put your proximity out further because some of the home sales are still out of whack to try to find something comparable to yours, right? Is that something they should look at too, right?
Well, if they're not finding any valid sales, yes, you can go out a little further. And to be honest, you may not be able to find comparable sales that support a reduction, but here's the good news. You don't need to provide comparable sales in order to submit an appeal. So maybe if you can't find any comparable sales that are supporting a reduction, maybe you go into Part D, which we'll talk about momentarily, and that talks about other things that may impact the value of your home. So when we're looking at comparable sales, again, we're going to stay in the same school district. You're trying to stay in the same neighborhood. If there's an external issue, if you're located on a busy road, then try to find comparable sales that are also on busy roads because they will reflect that people are typically willing to pay less money for a house on a busy street as compared to a house that's on a quiet block. You're going to look for similar homes. So our subject is a Cape. We're going to start by trying to find Cape-style homes, similar in living area and lot size and age. You do the best you can. You're not always going to find the ideal comparable sale. So if you can't find any good Capes, maybe you look for a ranch that's similar in living area. You're going to do the best you can with what's there. And sometimes, like Jeff said, sometimes there's no good sales in your immediate area. Maybe your appeal won't be based on comparable sales. Maybe it'll be based on other factors. So I also want to talk about the types of sales. When you're looking at sales, you need to use market sales, arm's length transaction. And what does that mean? A market sale means you have a person looking to sell the house for as much as they can get. You have a buyer looking to buy the house and spend as little as they can. They negotiate, they come up with a number. That's a market sale. What's not a market sale? Well, something like a foreclosure where the bank forecloses on the home and they just want to get rid of the house as quickly as possible. So they price it below market to get it sold quickly. That's not a market sale. An estate sale. Often somebody passes away, the kids have the house, they just want to sell the house quickly and get the money, so they price it below what it would normally sell for. That's not a market sale. A family sale, when maybe the parents sell to their kids, and as long as the kids were nice to them, they give them a discount, and sometimes they'll sell for well below what it would normally sell for. Now you'll notice on the screen it doesn't say market sale, estate sale, foreclosure. So how are you supposed to know which is which? When you're looking at the sales, you'll notice the sales typically fall within a general grouping. On our screen, it's like low 400,000s to maybe high 500,000s. So if you see a sale that sold for $275,000, more than likely it wasn't a market sale. If it looks out of whack, then it probably wasn't sold on the open market. Now, we can't stop you from including a non-market sale in your appeal. That being said, the appraiser looking at your appeal is going to look at it, go, something's kind of funky about this, do the research, realize it's not a market sale, and then not take it into account when they do their analysis. So again, you can include a non-market sale, but it's not going to help your case. Jeff, did you have something you wanted to add, or?
Yeah, just I'm trying to. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. It's weird. It's saying unmuted. It's unmute. Also, Rob, if you know of a house sale recently that might not be on here, you can include that, and that would be in the uploading of the documents in the other part D, right?
Absolutely. In Part E, where we have the actual sales, we will tell you how to add sales that may be too new, that don't appear in Sales Locator. We're also going to tell you about where you could find sales if you're not finding sales in Sales Locator. So stay tuned. They call that a tease in radio. So Okay, so you can choose 5 sales in Sales Locator. You could add more than that later, but you could only choose up to 5. Now, we often get asked, what's the magic number? How many comparable sales do I have to include? There is no magic number. If you have 1 or 2 really good comparable sales that help your case, then use 1 or 2. We typically recommend, or I recommend, 3 to 5 as a max. If you can't prove your case in 3 to 5 sales, adding 7 to 10, I've seen 15 to 20, it's not going to help your case. If you can't prove it with 3 to 5, just overloading us with sales isn't going to help. So in our example, we've chosen 3 sales, and you use the check boxes and choose them. Bottom left, it says select checkbox properties and continue, so we will do so. And now you see we have the 3 sales we chose along with our subject side by side. Let's concentrate on sale number 1. You'll notice it's 1171 Hempstead Avenue in Hempstead. It's in the same school district as our subject. It's less than a quarter of a mile away, so that's great. It sold January 19th, 2021 for $450,000. You keep going down, it's a cape like our subject that only sold, was only built a year before ours, so it's similar in age. Now you see where it says adjustments. The computer is going to account for any differences between the subject, your home, and the comparable sales that you've chosen. So if we look at the screen, it says lot area. Our subject has a lot area of 7,735 square feet. That's the property size. Sale 1, lot size is about 1,300 square foot smaller. So the computer has added value to account for the difference between the lot size of our subject and the lot size of sale 1. If you go down to half bath, we have 1 half bath. Sale 1 does not have a half bath. The computer has determined that $5,000 is what that half bath is worth and has added that value to sale 1. Same with living area. Our living area is slightly larger than that of sale 1, so it's adding value again. So after all the adjustments, what it says is that a home that sold for $450,000, if it was more like our subject in terms of lot area, bathroom counts, living area, and so forth, would have sold for almost $466,000. That's what it means to do the adjustments. It will do this automatically for sale 2 and sale 3. One more thing before we continue. You'll notice right above the bottom line, above adjusted price, it says weight. And you'll notice it says 34, 33, and 33. The computer normally will do an average. It'll take all 3 sales, divide by 3, and that's how it comes up with a number. You have the option to change that. That first sale, if you decide that's your best sale, that has the best chance of supporting your decision to get a reduction, you could change the weight. You could say, instead of 34, I want to make that 50. And then sale 2, 25, and sale 3, 25, because the numbers have to equal 100%. What it does is it changes the math. It does what's called a weighted average. If you remember in school, you had an average, and sometimes you took advanced classes and they did a weighted average where they leaned more weight on the tougher classes and your number was different. Same thing. So it'll do a weighted average. You don't have to do that, but if you feel that one sale helps you more than the others, you have that option to change the weights. We're going to keep it the way it is. Bottom left corner, it says continue. We're going to click continue. And now at this point, you have to acknowledge that the sales locator, it's not an appraisal. And it's not an opinion on the value of your property by the Assessment Review Commission. You have to read the disclaimer and agree to it before you go any further. So you click I agree, proceed. Then it gives you the results. So in this example, the weighted adjusted sale price and the average adjusted sale price are pretty much the same because we didn't change any of the weights. But if you had changed the weight, those numbers could be drastically different. And as a reminder, it shows taxable market value of $467,000. So in this example, it looks like that the number that the Department of Assessment has put on your property looks pretty accurate. Now, does that mean you can't file an appeal? Absolutely not. Sales Locator is optional, and even if you use it, you don't necessarily have to agree with it. So we're going to go ahead and submit the appeal. So we click on continue to submit an appeal. At this point, we're going to choose what type of property it is. For most of you, it's going to be the AR1 form, which is for 1 family, 2 family, 3 family homes, or low-rise condominiums. So we're going to choose the AR1. If it's one of the other options, you would choose that. We're going to stick with the AR1. And just to let you know, when you use the sales locator, some of the data from sales locator automatically gets put into your appeal. So part B, they put the value in there, the weighted average. And in part E, the sales you've chosen are put in automatically. Now, you don't have to keep any of the data from sales locator. You will have the option to change it. I just wanted you to be aware that when you use sales locator, this information gets put in your application automatically. One more thing before we continue with the actual form. You're going to see these question marks, white question mark in a blue circle throughout the application form. These are there to help you. If at any point you are not sure what they're asking about, you can put your mouse over the question mark. You don't even have to click, and a yellow box will pop up and give you more information. So in our example, it says taxpayer applicant's name. You're not sure what they're looking for. You put your mouse over the question mark, and it tells you if you own the house, write your name. If you're filing for a relative who owns the house, write that person's name and so forth. So it's kind of like having an assistant over your shoulder whenever you need to get a question answered. And those are throughout the form. So now we're into the actual application form. Part A is required. From sales locator, the parcel ID, the address, and name on the roll get put in automatically. Taxpayer applicant's name, that's going to be you, more than likely. Other owners' names. If you have a co-owner, spouse, family, you should put them in there for other owners' names. It's very important. If your spouse is on the roll, but they are not on the application, our staff cannot speak to them. So if John Smith is on the roll and he's on the application, Jane Smith is listed as an owner, but Jane is not listed on the application, and Jane calls and says, I own 504 Christie, I want to talk to you about the appeal, we can't speak to her. So make sure you put anybody who could be involved in this application on where it says other owners' names. For form, most of you are going to choose individual. If one of the other options meets what you're looking for, then choose the other option. For most of you, it's going to be individual. We will choose that and continue. Okay, part B. Now again, from sales locator, it puts in the weighted adjusted sale price from sales locator. Now what's in there now is about $14 less than we're being assessed at. So it doesn't really help us if we're looking to get a reduction. So like I said, you can change that. You could erase that and say you think your home is actually worth $400,000. So you could erase the 466,896. You would type in 400, comma 00. There's no dollar sign, no decimal point. Below that, it's asking if the house has been offered for sale or under contract. If your house is on the market or it's under contract and it's selling on the open market for less than you're being assessed for, that may be a good indicator of what your actual market value should be. So you could choose yes, and where it says price, you could type in the price. And then if you have any documentation, we're going to show you later on how to include that with your appeal. Part C, nice and easy. Representative type is self. There is nothing you have to add. Just continue. Okay, part D. Part D is optional. You can fill out as little, as much as you want. To look at part D in its entirety, where it says display, you click on display, and you will open up the entire screen so you can see there. Now, part D asks a variety of questions. You can answer as much or as little or none at all. What I want to concentrate on is the bottom third, where it says, are any of these adjacent to or visible from the house? One of the major reasons why we tell you do this yourself, don't hire a company, is nobody knows your house and your area as well as you do. A company can't know everything about your house. They can't know everything about the immediate area. You know these things. So this is your chance in part D to tell us things about your house that may not be obvious, that may not be obvious by looking at a map or looking at the public data. So let's start. Waterfront. You look at waterfront and you think, I'm not going to say waterfront. My house is on the water. That means it's worth more. It's not going to help. Well, not so cut and dry. If your house is located on the water on the North Shore, and it's by the Long Island Sound, it's nice calm water, beautiful sunsets, well then you know what? Yes, it may add value. But what happens if your house is located on the South Shore, and every time it rains about a half inch, the water comes up over your dock, goes through your backyard, and floods your basement? Waterfront location isn't looking so great now, is it? So check Waterfront, and below where it says other facts, tell us about it. Click Waterfront and say, I live on the South Shore, I'm on the water, every time it rains, my basement floods. Let's look at railroad. Is it good or bad to be by a railroad? Well, if you're near the railroad, there may be some noise, yes. But what if you're in an area that's popular with commuters because they can all walk to a train station instead of trying to find a parking space? That might be a positive thing. Nothing is cut and dry. Let's go down where it says street with a painted center line or other traffic separation. Usually double yellow line means you're on a busy road. But just because there's no double yellow line, does that mean your street doesn't get extra traffic? Well, maybe you back to a busy road. Or maybe your street is the local shortcut that all the locals know they can hop off the major road. They zip down your street, they bypass 7 or 8 lights, and because of that, you have a lot of extra traffic on your street. Now, a company's not going to know that. You know that because you live there. So tell us that. Check off the none of these or type in other facts. Let us know these things. What if you're by a school? A lot of times when you're close to a school, you get school bus traffic, you get people dropping off their kids. There's all the traffic in the morning and in the afternoon. But what if you're a couple of blocks away? Does that school not affect you? Well, think about this. What if your street is the first street in terms of proximity to the school where there aren't any no parking signs, so all the kids park on your street? Well, you have to let us know these things. And Jeff is mentioning that there may be some technical issues with the screen. My screen shows that we're doing okay. If people are having a problem seeing things, let us know in the Q&A and we'll take another look. So that's part D. Again, let us know what's going on with things around your house. Don't assume we know anything about it. And by the way, other facts, if there's not enough room there, type up a Word document. We'll tell you how to send it to us, and you can type up a word and let us know what's going on. You can take pictures. If there's a gas station across the street, or if there's a body shop that opens at 6, closes at 7, and you deal with all the noise. Tell us about it. Take photos. Never assume we know something about your home that you know. And thank you, Tom, for letting us know that your screen's okay. So that's part D. Again, don't assume anything. Let us know. I see so many applications that don't take the time to do part D. And especially if you can't find good comparable sales to support your appeal, part D may be what wins you an appeal and wins you a reduction. Take the time. Okay, part D. Part E. Part E is sales. In case you did not know, you are not required to provide sales. Part E is optional. You'll see right now we have sales from Sales Locator. If you look at these sales and say to yourself, these are not helping me, on the left-hand side of your screen, it says delete parcel. One by one, you can delete the sales. If you like the sales, but you want to add some more context, on the right, it says comments. You could type in some comments. Maybe that first sale that sold for $450,000. Maybe you found out that it's got a brand new granite kitchen. It's got imported marble floors from Italy, a new pool. Put that in the comments section. Now at the bottom of the screen, you'll notice there's a blank section. It says click the search for parcel ID. You can add sales, whether you are adding to sales you got from Sales Locator, or you just want to get rid of those sales and add new ones. So where would you find sales? Well, Zillow is a place to find sales. Make sure they are closed sales. Zestimates don't count. It has to be a closed sale. Realtor.com is a possibility. Street Easy people use. A great resource to find comparable sales. You know how we all get those things in the mail from local realtors saying, I'm the expert. Contact me and I'll sell your house in 5 minutes, whatever the case may be. Well, you know what? They're the expert, How about you contact them and say, you know what? I'm not selling my house, but I'm hoping you can help me out with a couple of comparables because I want to file an appeal. There's a good chance they will help you because they're hoping that if and when you sell your house in the future, you're going to remember the nice realtor who helped you out and give them the listing. So you could find listings from those sources. You may even know of a house on your block because your friends sold the house. So if you have a sale that you want to include, you would click on the blank magnifying glass. It's going to open up a property search area for you. It's going to open up a property search area for you. And you would search for the property, again, by using the, use the address. You'll find the property. You will manually enter a sale date, a sale price, and any comments. Maybe the comments are, I found this sale on realtor.com, or I got these from a broker. Now you'll notice there's only one blank spot down there. Each time you add a sale, it gives you another blank area to add another sale. So don't think you're limited to only 4. Again, people ask us the magic number. There's no specific magic number. Whatever it takes to prove your case, but if you can't prove your case within 3 to 5 sales, you probably aren't going to have a case supported by the sales. Don't go crazy. 10, 15. It's not going to help your case that much. But again, sales are optional. You are not required to include any comparable sales when you file your appeal. Part F is required. You're going to enter the code that you see in the black box because we want to make sure you haven't turned into a robot since the time you started. Read through all those statements. You have to understand what you are agreeing to before you submit the application. You're going to choose the proper signatory certification. For most of you, that's owner of record. And then you're going to click Submit Application Form and only click it once. Even if you think you didn't click it, give it time. Make sure if you click it multiple times, you may submit multiple applications and you are only allowed to have 1 appeal on file. If you have more than 1 appeal, you're going to have to delete the extra ones before they will look at your appeal. So just click it once, give it a second for it to go through. Now, if you make any mistakes, the form is going to tell you you made mistakes. As you can see, it says errors found in Part A, errors found in Part B below, appeals not submitted, please fix the errors. And it actually shows you where the errors are. So for Part A, it says we didn't put a taxpayer applicant name, we're missing the form, we would fix those. And in Part A, where it says submit changes, you would click submit changes. Then you go to Part B, make any corrections there, and click submit changes. Once you've made all the changes, you will get a confirmation message saying your appeal has been submitted. It will give you the application number. You should write that down because it's very helpful to have that number, especially if you have to call our customer service folks. You will get a confirmation in your mail. Check your spam folder if you don't get the confirmation email. And you can always check what's going on with your application by on the left where it says appeal filing, status change. You can click on that and check and see what's going on with your appeal. Now you have the option to go back to the home page if you're all done. You could submit another appeal in the same way, or you could view or add attachments. Now, why would you add attachments? Well, if you have additional documentation, if you just had the house done as a refinance and you have a copy of the appraisal, attach the appraisal. Let us take a look at it. If you have photos, either there's major damage to your home or there's something annoying across the street that you think would impact the value of your home, take a photo and submit it. Your mindset when you're looking at your appeal is you're looking at things and wondering if someone was going to buy your house, why would they be unwilling to pay your price? Why would they say it's not worth that much because of view, because of location, whatever those cases are? So if you have proof, again, an appraisal, photos, and so forth, you could attach it. So we're going to show you how to do this. So you're going to click on the button where it says view or add attachments. Since we don't have any yet, it's going to say, would you like to add one now? We will say yes. A pop-up window comes up. You're going to click on choose file. You're going to navigate to the attachment and double click on it, same as if you were attaching something to an email. You'll choose the document type from the drop-down list, whether it's an appraisal, photos, a legal document. If none of those apply, choose other documents. And then you would click on Submit Attachment. You'll notice in the middle of our screen, the attachment's there now. It says test.pdf. Now, if you attach the wrong thing, you can click on Delete Document and you can delete it. Or if you want to add more attachments, you can use the pop-up window, click Upload Your Document, or if you're all done, click to return to the appeal form. Now, you can add things to your form. You can make modifications to your appeal yourself up until May 2nd, which is the end of the filing period. If you need to make any changes or you want to add something or have something taken away from your appeal after that date, you'll have to send it to us. So our mailing address is right there, Assessment Review Commission, 240 Old Country Road, 5th floor, Mineola, New York, 11501, attention residential supervisor. And by the way, the brochure that I mentioned about downloading, that has all the address and telephone numbers for us. So if you forget the address, you don't write it down now, it's in the brochure. Download the brochure. So you can delete the attachment if the wrong one was attached, as I said, by clicking delete. And again, all the attachments, if you don't do it in time for the filing period, just send it to us at that address. And again, we'll show the address at the end of the presentation. Now, after clicking the Return to Appeal form, when all the documentation for the appeal has been uploaded, you will see that the application has been received by ARC. If you look on the right side under status, it says received. You can click on the Arrow Home tab to return to your home page, or click on the Logout tab to log out of your Arrow account if you're all done. Again, very important. Especially if you're on someone else's computer, you're at the library, log out of Arrow every time you finish. You can always go back and check your application by logging into your account and then clicking on the left where it says Appeal Filing Status Change tab. So that is how you file if you use Sales Locator. But what if you don't want to use Sales Locator? You don't have to. We're going to show you how to do that. We're going to go a little faster because there's a lot of repetition. But again, if there's any questions you have, use the Q&A, send us a question. We will address it at the end. So on the Arrow homepage, you can either click on File and Appeal on the left-hand side, or at the bottom where it says File and Appeal Online. You're going to choose the right form. Again, for most of you, it's the AR1 for a 1, 2, or 3 family home. At this point, you're going to enter your parcel ID or search by your address to find your property. And again, when you're putting in your address, do not put in the suffix for the street. It's number, name of the street with nothing after it, zip code, and click search.
Yeah, I wanted to add before, you made some great points. It's like whatever you live by, you know, you have to look at everything around you. Like Rob said, if there's high powered tension wires, stop signs, double yellow lines, you're down, you can see the railroad from your house. You can see a commercial building, a school, a playground, anything like that, can add it in. You know, what's the worst they can say is no, right? So just add as much information as you possibly can. You know, you can look at, like Rob said, on the waterfront, if it's flooding, you know, your elevation could be lower than the house down the block that could be assessed lower than yours, and he doesn't get flooding. So that's just something else to look at too. So back to you, Rob.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, so we are back in part A now because we're doing this without Sales Locator. And again, you're going to add the taxpayer applicant's name, other owners' names. Make sure you choose the right form. Part B. Now, Part B is blank because you didn't use Sales Locator. So you're going to enter your full market value, your estimate of what that value is. Again, don't use $, don't use decimal points. If you're going to, again, note if the house is for sale or in the contract, you would choose yes and enter the price. Part C, still the easiest, nothing to do there. Part D, still optional. Click the display button, open it wide open, choose as much, as little, or none of all. But again, Part D really is a great place to tell us what's going on with your home in terms of the house itself, in terms of your location, and especially if you can't find any good comparable sales for you. Part E, optional. Again, you do not need to submit sales with your appeal, but if you want to, you would do so manually, as we showed you before, by clicking on the search magnifying glass and then adding the sales manually. Part F, still required. Enter the security code in the black box into the white one. Read those statements, choose the proper signatory certification. For most of you, it's owner of record. And then one time, click submit application form. Same as before, if you make any mistakes, it will show you where they are. You will go section by section, fix those mistakes and click submit changes. When everything is correct, you will get that confirmation message, the application number. You will also get the email, as we mentioned. If at any time up until the end of the filing period you want to make changes to your appeal, you can do so. You log into your Arrow account. On the left, it says Appeal Filing Status Change. You would click on that. Now you have to find the correct application. So if you only have one in there, you can choose to search by tax year, or if you wrote the application number down, you could write the application number into that box, click Search for Appeals, find the appropriate one. You will click on the application number, and now you can make changes. So in this example, we're back at Part B. Say we don't like the 460 that's there, you erase it, you type in $400,000, and you click Submit Changes. Again, you can do this yourself up until May 2nd. Afterwards, you could still have changes made to your appeal, but our staff has to do it for you. If you want to add any additional documents to your appeal, you would click where it says ARC Communications/Attachments. And then you would click Upload New Document and do it the same as we showed you before. One final thing, withdrawing your appeal. On the application page, you can withdraw your appeal by clicking on Withdraw Appeal, which is located on the left side of your screen. You only can have one appeal filed per parcel, and any duplicates have to be withdrawn for your application to be processed. So if you filed an appeal and then your spouse filed an appeal and didn't tell you about it, one of those has to get deleted. They have to be withdrawn. Otherwise, neither of them will be processed. So you make sure your pop-up blocker works. You're going to click where it says Withdraw the Appeal. A message is going to pop up. You'll read through the message. You'll understand that it's telling you that once you do this, once you withdraw it, you can't undo it. Once you delete the appeal, that's it. You can't get it back. You will click that you've read the terms of the agreement. You will click I agree. And now the application has been successfully withdrawn. And as you see status, it says withdrawn. So that is the entire presentation. And now it is time to answer your questions. And I brought Tom, who is our customer service guy, to help answer some questions. And Jeff's going to be with us as well, helping answer questions. So we're going to go through these questions. We've had quite a few of them. I know our staff in the background has been answering some of these questions as well. So the first one was, what's the grievance application deadline? Nice, easy one to start off with. May 2nd. It was March 1st. It's been extended to May 2nd. So yes, you have plenty of time. Do not wait until the last minute. If you decide on May 2nd at 11:50 p.m. to do your filing and the computer system crashes and you don't make the deadline, you are out of luck. There is nothing we can do. One more thing, as long as we're talking about deadlines. When you are filling out this form, give yourself enough time to start and finish. And here's what I mean by that. If you do Part A, Part B, Part C, and then you go, oh, you know what? I'm going to leave the computer, go have some dinner and come back. The website will do what's called timing out. It will kick you out of the application and you will have to start again. So what you can do is quickly do A, B, C, F, because those are all required. You can submit it, get your application number, and then you can come back after dinner, a couple of days later, depending on when you did it, and make any additions or changes. But at least you know you've got that application number, you have met the deadline, and you have confirmation, and you don't have to worry about being late. So it's something to consider. Tom, if you see any questions that you want to address, feel free to unmute your microphone and jump right in here. And Jeff, if you see any questions you want to talk about as well, just unmute and come on in. The water's fine.
They were asking about if they can obtain copies of an appeal that was filed by one of the representatives of prior years. And yes, they can do that. They can file a FOIL request, and the FOIL request can be done online through our website. So when they go in, even when they go to look at Arrow, before they get to the Arrow homepage, they want to look at the regular homepage for ARC. On the left side of the screen, there's a FOIL request tab. Click on that, and you can request any documentation.
Great. So just to repeat that, because I know Tom's connection is a little fuzzy. Someone was asking about getting information that's not in Arrow, and there's a way to do that with a FOIL request, Freedom of Information. And there is a link, I believe, on the ARC website, Tom said, that you can find that form, fill it out, and send it in. And there's information that you can request. Let's see what we got here. If there's specific questions about your property, we may not address them just because I want to get to as many general questions as possible. So if you have a question about your specific property, you could always call customer service. Their phone number is on the screen, 571-3214. Also, the other contact information is available on the site. And Michael, I believe, as yes, he has, because he's great at this job, has published a whole bunch of information, including a link to our website, hours of operation, phone number for customer service. The link to download the brochure we spoke about at the beginning of the presentation is now in the Q&A. You can click and download that link. Also, if you need to contact customer service, you can do so as well. Their number, 516, I'm sorry, if you need to contact the Department of Assessment, Department of Assessment is 516-571-1500, or there is a link to a form that you could send them a message through their website. All right there in the Q&A. Let's see, I bought my house recently. My purchase price was higher than what they already appraised. I'm guessing that means the purchase price is higher than you're being assessed at. Do you think I would be able to grieve? Well, first off, you're always able to grieve. We can't stop you from grieving. That's your legal right. And just because you think you don't have a good chance at winning the appeal doesn't mean you can't file it. So you may have a tougher case to prove if you paid more than what the house is being assessed at. But if you could perhaps prove that you overpaid or it was a special situation, well, that's a possibility. We are going to see what you paid for the house because it's in public records and we have access to it. But maybe there's other factors. And again, I mentioned Part D. Put some other factors that you may feel may not be reflected in the price you paid for the house. So there's always a chance. And again, it never hurts to file an appeal. And that's very important. When you file an appeal, we often get this question: is there a chance they could raise my assessed value because I filed an appeal? And that answer is no, they cannot. If you file an appeal, they can either offer you a reduction, and then you can either accept it or reject it, or they can tell you you're staying the same. That's it. They can't raise your assessed value based on the fact that you filed an appeal. Okay. We get this question a lot. Why is a neighbor of 3 houses down from me paying so much less in taxes than me when the house is when my house is the second smallest on the street? It's tough to compare what your neighbor's paying and what you're paying in taxes. There could be a plethora of reasons as to why. Let's see. Well, first off, you have to compare apples to apples. When we do these assignments, you can't base it on what your neighbor's paying, what your neighbor's assessed at in terms of what they're paying taxes. There may be exemptions that your neighbor has that you don't have that's causing a difference. There could be a variety of factors in terms of external issues or condition of the home. Don't base your appeal on what your neighbors are paying in taxes, because that's not a factor we can look at. But definitely look at exemptions and so forth and see, because you may be missing out on exemptions that you're not aware of. And I see Jeff wants to jump in, so come on in.
Yeah, Rob, just one thing for our seniors out there. You know, if you have your veterans discount, combat veterans, wounded, you're getting a lot of exemptions with which you're all should get for serving our country. But you can look at it and say, well, you know, I'm only paying a couple $1,000s in taxes. it goes on your assessment. So when you go to sell your house, you know, if you want to move down south, you're moving away, you want to get into warmer retirement climate, they're going to have the realtor has to put the real property taxes on there. And I've seen it where a friend of mine was selling a house. It was $600,000 house, $500,000 house, and the taxes were like 20 some odd $1,000 when they should have been around 10 or 12 because the senior had so many exemptions. They didn't think to appeal their assessment, so they had to file an appeal, and it took about a year to sell the house because they had to wait for the appeals to go through the grievance process. So just something to think of there.
Absolutely. And if there's any questions you have about exemptions, you would contact the Department of Assessment. Their department handles it. You could give them a call, 571-1500. And by the way, that extension is 2 for exemptions. Let's see here. If I want to attach additional information, Zillow sales, my property documents to evidence recent sales. Well, again, we talked about adding attachments. If you're not comfortable adding attachments, yes, you can mail the information in. And again, all the mailing information is available on our website or in the brochure. So yes, if you file online, but you don't feel like you're able to put the attachments in, or you don't know how to scan something in, put it in an envelope, mail to our staff, explain what your which house it's for, which property, include a section, block, and lot, or the application number is great too. And then our staff can attach that to the appeal for you. So don't let the technology stop you. Yes, Tom, did you want to add something?
Right, they can also drop that documentation off in our office. We are open from 9 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Drop it off for your receipt.
Got it. So, like Tom said, if you want to drop the documentation off at our office, they can do so between 9 a.m. and about 4:30 or so. 240 Old Country Road in Mineola. We are on the 5th floor. So if you want to drop off the documentation instead, you're more than welcome to do so. Okay, someone is asking, let's see here. If a house is in, well, we're not going to save a town, it doesn't make a difference. But the comp house is in the same area, but different taxing. Let's see. Well, let's go by this. If you have 2 homes that are in the same zip code, but in different school districts, you're probably not going to want to use that as a comp. You want to use homes that are in the same school district. School district is such a huge factor that people will choose neighborhoods based on school districts sometimes, and even take whether the location may be a very busy road, but they really want their kids to be in that school district. So that's why school district is more important than zip code. If the school districts and the school taxes are similar and you can't find any other valid comparable sales, well then yes, you may end up using a home from a different school district. But that's only if you can't find a valid comparable in that school district. And if you're avoiding obvious comparable sales just to try and get a reduction, our appraisers are going to understand that you're doing that. Like if you are ignoring sales within a quarter of a mile and going 3 miles away to try and find comparable sales, our appraisers, whether you include comparable sales or not, are going to look for comparables also. And they'll notice if you're skipping a whole bunch of sales. Do tax increases have a limit from the previous year, although the reassessment requires a higher tax? Trying to phrase that properly. There is a limit on how much your assessed value can be raised. I believe it's 6%. Tom, tell me if I'm wrong here. 6% per year?
6% per year, 20% over 5.
Thank you. And Jeff was giving me the hand signals that I was right, which is great. So yes, so it's not so much of a tax increase. You have to be concerned with whether the assessed value, and it can only be increased 6% per year or 20% over 5 years. And yes, that assessed value is what they're going to use in the math to determine what you're paying in taxes. Again, you are grieving your assessed value, not your taxes directly. Jeff, come on in.
Yeah, and some people, we got a question yesterday, said, my assessed value went down, but my taxes went up. That means that your school district taxes went up higher than your assessed value went down. Am I correct there, Rob? So if
Absolutely.
Right, raises it, it's a 2% cap. But if they break the cap or it goes, you didn't get, it's still all about the percentage reduction. So you didn't go down enough. But if you wouldn't have gone down, then it would have gone even higher. So
exactly. Jeff and I were talking about this before the session, that if you grieve and you get a reduction, does it mean your taxes will be lower than last year? Not necessarily. But if you do get a reduction, your taxes will be lower than they would if you didn't get a reduction. That's why we always encourage you to, file an appeal. Again, you can't compare year to year. Each year is taken separately. Okay, let's see. This is a good question. So basically, if you want your house to appraise for less, so taxes are less, then what happens when you want to sell? Does it affect the sale price? It's not my department, so to speak, but if you are able to get your taxes lower by filing an appeal, it may help you sell your house. I mean, it's not our department, but my experience as an appraiser, if you have two houses that are exactly the same, but one has lower taxes because they've been filing an appeal, that may help you sell the house. Now, of course, properties are reassessed, so that may not be a long-term thing, but you never know what's going to appeal to a buyer. A lot of times in the listings, the realtors will also say, especially the realtors when they're honest, will say the true taxes of a property are, say, $30,000, because sometimes people look and they say, oh, this guy's paying $20,000. That's a great deal for taxes. But they don't understand that there are exemptions that that person may have that aren't going to transfer to you. The owner may be a veteran. You're not a veteran. So when the veteran sells the house to you, that exemption goes away. You don't want you to be surprised about your taxes going up because the exemption goes away. That's why the really good realtors on the listing will say the true taxes are X, and this way there's no surprises. Let's see. Someone's asking about a walkout basement. I'm guessing whether it's included in the living area. Basements typically are not included in the living area. If it's a walkout, Department of Assessment really handles those types of things. So I'm not going to answer a question like that because I'm not qualified to answer that definitively. If you're not sure if your walkout basement is being included in your living area, you can check the math. When you look at your home on mynassauproperty.com, there's typically a sketch as well as your square footage. So if you have a 1,000 square foot ranch and you look at the sketch and it's, don't make me do math, 25 by 40, that's 1,000. Jeff's the numbers guy. Anyway, if you look and the first floor equals 1,000 square foot on the sketch, then you know they're not including the basement. If the sketch is 1,000 square feet, but they're saying you have 2,000 square feet of living space, then maybe they're including the basement. But again, a question like that, to get it definitively answered, contact Department of Assessment, because they're the ones that do the research, they're the ones that do the inspections and determine the initial numbers. And if there's any mistakes, as we mentioned before, if there's mistakes in your inventory, Department of Assessment is who handles any corrections. So I promise I'm not avoiding the question. It's just, if I can't answer a question definitively, I'm not going to tell you I can.
I think when you in the beginning, when you look at, your home on that one of the first pages there, when it gives you everything, you have bathrooms and stuff like that, you have to look. You really got to make sure all that's correct, because if it says you have 3 bathrooms and you only have 2, that takes off money off your assessment.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's why we said. And again, if you're using Sales Locator and the inventory is incorrect, you can make those changes in Sales Locator, but nothing permanent gets changed if you do not contact Department of Assessment. So you need to give them a call if there's any mistakes. Well, let's put it this way. You're only going to call if it's going to help. If they think you have 1 bathroom, you have 7, you're not calling them. But if it's the other way around and they think you have 7 bathrooms and they're charging your assessment based on 7 bathrooms and you have 2, I'm sure you're going to give them a call. So someone's asking about how to determine your living area. Well, again, living area is typically areas above grade. So if your house is 25 by 100, your house has a living area of 2,500 square feet. Living area typically does not include the basement. It also does not include a garage, unless the garage has been finished into living area and there's permits and so forth. So again, that's the basics on how to determine your living area. But all that information is on mynassoproperty.com. Let's see. If we can't find comparable sales and they want to include more data in Part D, what should we do? Well, let's go back to Part D. And I told Jeff this, and I tell everybody because it's really strange how much I love Part D, because it's strange that I love part of an application, but it really is. It's my favorite part because it's the things you can talk about. You are the homeowner. You are your best advocate. Anything you think of. Here's the mindset you have to be in. If you wanted to sell your house for $500,000, what are things that someone may look at and go, $500,000? You're across the street from a garage. I'm not willing to pay that. I'll pay $475,000. That's the mindset you have to be. What is someone going to look at or notice about your area that's going to make them say, your price is too high, I think it's worth less because of this? You're on a busy road. You're next to a commercial property. Your home is next to a zombie house that hasn't been vacant for 30 years. Whatever the case may be. Anything that makes you say, someone's going to pay less for my house because of this, that's what goes in Part D. And if you don't have enough room in Part D, type it up in a Word document and attach it to us. And if you can't figure out how to attach it to us, pop it in the mail to us. As Tom said, stop by our office and give us the attachment of the Word document printout. We can attach it to your appeal for you. But that's the mindset. So really get in the Part D, take advantage of it. Tom, did you have something you wanted to add?
Yes, what I like to tell homeowners who file an appeal, if they have a garage or a Carvel right out their back door, a 7-Eleven out their backyard, they can stand on their back stoop, take a picture of it exactly the way it looks, and then you can attach that to their appeal or mail it in to have it attached to their appeal.
Absolutely. If there is something that's an eyesore, that's within that, if you have to look at it every day and you think that impacts your value inside your house, take a picture, add it as an attachment. If you can't figure out how to add it as an attachment, print it out, mail it to us or drop it off, and we'll add it to your appeal. Again, anything that you think is going to help your case for getting a reduction, send it to us. Whether it's a photo, whatever you guys think is going to help. When in doubt, send it. Okay, try to get through more questions. We have a lot of questions. Again, if I don't get to them all, call customer service. They are there to help you, especially if it's a very property-specific question. I'm going to ask you to call customer service tomorrow because they could spend more time talking about your actual house. Let's see, how do we know if they've already submitted a petition for our house? Well, if you submit it and someone else submits it through Arrow on your account, you'll see it. You can only have one Arrow account per property. If I'm wrong about that, Tom, let me know.
Well, if somebody else submits an application on their property, they would not see it because it's not in your account. However, if somebody had filed an appeal on your property the day before and you're about to push that button, when you push that button to file your appeal, you'll see a warning that says this will be duplicating your appeal. And that sort of gives you a hint that somebody has already filed, probably in error, or a representative may have filed for you. And at that point, you want to give customer service.
Okay, see, I just learned something. See, that's why I have Tom here. I did not know that if you have a duplicate, it warns you that it's a duplicate filing. See, that's why we get the guys on here. Perfect. Okay, let's see. How far back can sales be? I assume you mean comparables. Okay. Well, someone asked if it's 20 years back. Okay. 12 to 18 months is what we're looking at. 12 to 18 months is what Sales Locator looks at. You're looking for sales 12 to 18 months prior to the effective date. And for this period, the effective date is January 3rd, 2022. If you can't find valid comparable sales within 12 to 18 months, you can go back a little further or go out a little wider in terms of going more than a mile or so away from your home, but you have to have a good reason for it. One of the example of that may be if you have a new construction home and there hasn't been any recent sales of newer homes, or there hasn't been a recent sale of a home very close to you, You can go back a little bit. You can go a little bit further out. New construction is kind of a different animal. People are willing to ignore school districts just to be in a brand new home. So that's often a good excuse to go out a little further in time or distance. Also, when you're looking for comparable sales, a house next door that just sold a month before may not be a valid comparable. If your house is 1,000 square foot ranch and the house next door is a 3,000 square foot colonial, that's not comparable. I don't care if it's located next door. The person looking to buy a 3,000 square foot house isn't saying, oh, you know what? I could skip the 2,000 square feet extra. I'll just move into a 1,000 square foot house. So just because a house is close to yours doesn't necessarily mean it's a valid comparable. It's got to be close if possible, but definitely similar to yours. Again, the principle is called substitution. It means that if your house was on the market and somebody couldn't buy it, what other homes in the area are similar so that you would say, I can't buy this house, I'll buy that house instead. That's the mindset you have to have. Okay, someone's talking about refunds and assessment challenges and stuff like that. Unfortunately, that's not something we can answer. Tom, if someone's looking for information on that, where do they go?
Okay.
Because
Yeah, they can call two groups. One would be the county treasurer, and that would be 516-571-2090, or the Department of Assessment at the 1,500.
got it. So someone was asking about they may be entitled to a refund for excess taxes they paid. So Tom mentioned that they could call the county treasurer. And Michael, if you could put the number for the county treasurer in the Q&A, although I'm sure you're already doing it. So if you need that number for county treasurer, Michael is going to publish that in the Q&A section. Let's see, does renovating your home increase or decrease the assessed value? Okay. When you renovate your home, first off, if you don't change your square footage, there's a good chance we're not going to know about renovations. When we look at comparable sales, we tend to look for sales that have been renovated and some that have not been renovated, and kind of come in the middle generally because we haven't been inside your home. So we don't know, whether you have a granite kitchen or the house hasn't been redone in 30 years. So we try to run the gamut and trying to find sales in the area that are some renovated and some not. If we know your house has been renovated because you've expanded it, if you've added square footage, then typically that raises your assessed value. If you added a room, if you converted a garage legally to living space, that typically can raise your assessed value. How much? To be determined. I know some people try to contact Department of Assessment before they do a renovation to see if they could find out a ballpark of how much their assessed value and their taxes go up. But again, they can never give you an exact number. So while they may be offering to help you out with something like that, there's no guarantee they're going to have the right numbers. But for more specifics, I would call Department of Assessment. They can answer those type of questions. Let's see, will a telephone pole on my property help reduce my value? It may. If telephone poles are common to the area, it's tough to put a number on that. But if you think that it's an eyesore and it's a problem for you if you go to sell your house, well, then you know what? Like Tom said, take a photo of a telephone pole and let us know, or write some comments and say, this telephone pole is disgusting and the workers come back there all the time and I have all these squirrels climbing up and down and so forth, whatever the case may be. When in doubt, tell us about it. Okay, here's a great question. If we get a reduction using Part D, does it become public information? I get this question a lot because people are wondering if you're bad-mouthing is the wrong word, but if you're telling us all these negative things about your home that would make it not sell for as much, you're afraid, well, if someone finds out what I'm saying, then if I go to sell my house, they're going to quote all these things. The answer is no. Public D is not public information. Part D is not public information. So if you're putting this information in here, it's not going to get out to like the interwebs all of a sudden, and people are going to go, well, she said her house is not worth as much because it's on a busy road or because we have to look at, ugly property all day or so forth. So that's not an issue, but it is a good question to ask. All right. Tom, you may want to help me with this. Someone's asking what happens if they get a reduction and then they have the option to either accept it or refuse it, and then go on to SCAR. I want to make sure I get this right because you handle this question way more than I do.
If a person disagrees with the reduction that may be offered to them, we have the opportunity to accept it. Or if they do in fact disagree, they, depending on what course they will take this year, they can reject it and request a secondary review. So this past year, secondary reviews were granted if you supply brand new information with your secondary review request. If you have a secondary review and you still don't agree with the reduction that's presented, you can still reject it and move on to small claims court. Individuals have always gone to court on their own, which is small claims, small claims assessment review, or SCAR, they're called. Some homeowners hire an attorney, but a lot of homeowners do it themselves. It's very informal. It's with a hearing officer and also someone from the Department of Assessment.
Great. So just to recap, because I know Tom's connection's a little iffy there. If you reject the first offer, there is the possibility of having a second review if you have new information to provide. If you just tell them, look it again, but I'm not going to give you any information, well, then a second review is not going to happen. And then if you reject the offer, then you have the option to go to SCAR, which is Small Claims Assessment Review. It's an informal hearing. There's a hearing officer, and there's somebody from the Department of Assessment there. Most folks represent themselves. You can hire somebody, but it's not required. So, and if you want more information about SCAR, you can get that from the clerk's office. You can go visit the clerk's section of our the website for the county, and they'll have more information on SCAR.
The clerk's phone number would be 516-571-2663.
Hey, Rob.
Come on in, Jeff.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to mention, which I should have did in the beginning, when you're grieving your taxes, right? So people come up to me like, you know, my taxes keep on going up, but my neighbors are going down. So the way you look at it is like it's a balloon. You push in one side, it comes out the other, because you've taken away from one part, someone else is paying. I explained to somebody yesterday that if you're getting a $1,500 reduction in your taxes, you know, he was in Massapequa. I said Massapequa School District's not losing that $1,500. Someone else is going to pay. You know, it's going to be spread out over other houses of people that are not grieving their taxes. So that's why I always say you should always grieve. If you get rejected, you get rejected, but you know, you could be successful, but your neighbors are grieving. So their assessment's going lower, their taxes will drop. The money is getting made up from somewhere in that school district. If it's always gets basically thrown on the people that are not grieving their taxes. Am I right, Rob?
Yeah, I would agree. And remember, when you're filing your appeal, it's a misnomer. We all fall into that habit every so often. When you're filing an appeal, you're appealing your assessment, which is what is used to calculate your taxes. So it's very important that you understand, because a lot of folks and all the companies that advertise their wares, they all use that phrase, you grieve your taxes. You are grieving your assessment. It's very important to understand that, and we all fall back into that. I had a question about Part E, because they were saying if you use Sales Locator and you don't like to use the sales, well, as we said before, on Part E, if you have a sale that is in there and you don't want to use it, you can delete it. And I went to the wrong Part E. There we go. So if you have these sales here and you don't want to use them, just click where it says delete parcel and it will be taken away. Just remember, once you delete it, you can't go back in the Sales Locator and re-add it there. So once it's gone, you've taken it out of your appeal. You can add sales manually or again if you don't want to include any sales. If you can't find any valid sales that are going to help your case, then don't include any. That's fine. Absolutely. Okay. Trying to get as many questions as we have here. There are so many. Someone's asking, why do we have to use sales? Why can't we use assessments from other people? And it's the law that the way to file an appeal is based on comparable sales, not assessments of other homes. I didn't write the law. That's just the way the law is written. But that is the way that we are determining what your assessed value is. It's based on comparable sales. Let's see. Will you ever get a reply? Last year I got a confirmation number and never heard a thing.
Yeah,
I hear Tom coming in. Come on in, Tom.
What I could suggest is you give our office a call tomorrow, you provide us with your parcel ID or the confirmation number, and we can take a look at your history.
Great. So as Tom said, if you never got a reply, well then call customer service tomorrow. If you have your application number, that is great. If not, section, block, and lot will do, and they will be able to look it up in the system and see what the status is. Okay, someone asked for a reminder of what it means to be an arm's length sale. Great question. Arm's length typically means you have a buyer and a seller that don't have a prior relation. An example of a non-arm's length sale is if you have a parent selling to their kids, or if it's a bank, foreclosing on a property. Those aren't arm's length transactions. Arm's length transactions usually means it's a informed buyer and an informed seller, and they're typically not related. So let's see. Looking through a whole bunch of these queries. Let's see. The market price was going up in the past year. Does that mean we are all going to pay higher property taxes? Well, again, we handle the assessed values, but you would think that if values are going up, especially in a similar area, a lot of those values are going to go up a similar percentage. So it doesn't mean you're all going to pay higher property taxes, because that's based on the budget, how much the county needs and how much the towns need and how much the schools need, more so than what the overall price is. If everyone's prices and everyone's assessed values are going up the same percentage, 5%, and the amount of taxes overall that the county needs and the school needs doesn't change, then in theory, you guys would stay the same. Now, in actuality, budgets change, tax rates change, and so forth. But again, you want to compare a year separate. So you can't go back and say, I paid $20,000 this year, I got a reduction, I'm definitely paying less than $20,000 this year. Each year is separate. You have to compare it based on what you were going to pay taxes, or what your assessed value was going to be. And then if you got a reduction, how much less you're going to pay because of that reduction. You can't compare year to year. Let's see. How do you get to the add attachments section? Well, let's see. If you have, here we go. If you already have submitted your appeal, on the application page, you could submit additional attachments. And what you would do is you would go to where it says appeal filing status. And then one of the options is you would search for your property if you don't have it already. You would find that property. And then where it says ARC Communications Attachments, like it does on your screen, you would click on that and it would give you the opportunity to add additional attachments, or you would be able to go in there and delete them if need be. And if you're really having a big problem attaching stuff, either stop by our office with the documentation or put it in the mail and we will add it for you. Is the presentation going to be available afterwards on the website? Well, I know that Jeff has his own video he has done, and done very well, I might add. And that's available at all times on the tax receivers page of the Town of Oyster Bay's website. We also mentioned that there's a short version of this presentation that is always available on our homepage at askarcnassau.com. So you've got a choice. It's entirely up to you. But yes, those videos are available. Let's see, and I apologize if we went a little fast.
I think what I would suggest, Rob, to people is you can always play the video in the background as you're doing your application to walk you through it. It'll help you remember to do things, adding things, and all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. It's like having somebody over your shoulder kind of guiding you through. So, and by the way, speaking of somebody over your shoulder to guide you through, if you're working on this and it's the middle of the day and you're stuck, call customer service. They can talk you through if you're having some issues. Again, they're there from 9 a.m. to 4:30. It says 4:45 on the screen, but they usually take the last calls at 4:30, so they have time to answer their questions and so forth. So, but that's Monday through Friday. Give them a call if you have any questions about your property specifically, or if you're having a problem with the website. If you forgot your username or password, or if you forgot your password, give them a call. They can either help talk you through it, or they can help reset your password if you need it. Our customer service crew is great. They answer these types of questions all day, every day, 5 days a week, which is why I love having guys like Tom on here, because he answers these questions a lot more than I do. I'm actually one of the appraisers that reviews the appeals when they come in. So I'm really, I wouldn't say more knowledgeable, but I'm pretty knowledgeable about how the appeal process works in terms of what we're looking for and so forth. But when it comes time to the technical stuff and how to do things, guys like Tom and guys like Michael who are help producing tonight, they know way more than I will ever know. Let us see. We answered that question already. Oh, absolutely. This is a great one. Can I add privately sold homes that are not showing in sales locator? Absolutely. So, as we showed you in Part E, you can manually add sales. And again, if you know of a sale, either from a realtor, you found it yourself on Zillow, and it's just too new to be in sales locator, you have the option. You go to Part E, and at the bottom of the screen, you can manually add another sale. You click on the magnifying glass at the bottom to search for the parcel ID to find the address, and then you would manually put in sale price, sale date, and any comments. So absolutely. And there's always a chance you're going to find some sales from other sources. Sales locator gets updated on a, I believe, semi-regular basis, but I can't tell you specifically when they're going to show newer sales. So you could always look again on Zillow, look on Realtor.com, Street Easy, contact local realtors. Just again, you're looking for closed sales. People have asked me, is a Zestimate valid? And no, it's not. It's got to be a closed sale. Let's see, where do you find the full market value to list in Part B? Well, you're not finding the market value. The full market value is what you think the home should be assessed at. So in our example, our home is assessed for $467,000. You're filing an appeal because you feel that's too high. Your mindset is, I don't think my home would sell for $467,000. What do I think the home would sell for? If you think the home would sell for $400,000, then in Part B, put $400,000. If you think you could only sell your house for $375,000, then put $375,000. That full market value is what you think your home would sell for on the market. And obviously, if you're filing an appeal, you think it would sell for less than you're currently being assessed at. Here's a good question. In Part D, can you enter the same information year after year? Yes, you can. In fact, you should, because we don't look at Part D from prior years. Each year is looked at separately. So if you put in information about the fact that you're on a busy road or you're on waterfront that makes your house flood all the time, we only know it if you put it into your current appeal. So even if you put it in last year, put it in again this year. Is a small room without windows or closets considered a bedroom? Well, from an appraiser standpoint, usually a bedroom means you have a window or closet. But however, you'll notice, and let me bring up that screen so you can see, we don't really show bedrooms in our system. And that's not really taken into account. If you look on your screen and notice it says number of rooms, but it doesn't mention bedrooms. The reason for that is sometimes people use a bedroom as a den or an office. Gets a little confusing. So we go by the square footage, and typically bedroom counts is reflected in how big a house is. You know, bedroom counts may be considered as part of a regular appraisal when you're having a refinance or a sale, but in terms of assessments, bedroom counts are not taken into consideration, so you don't have to worry about that. If you upload a photo, is there a box to tell us what's in the photo and explain why? Well, when you upload the photo, all we get is the photo. So what I recommend you do is in Part D, you could explain that I uploaded some photos and they reflect this, or you could send us a Word document and put the photo in the Word document, and therefore you can type something on the Word and label the photo. I see this right across the street. It's in the back of our house, and it's always a problem, whatever the case may be. So that's the way. Or you could send us the photo if you want, and maybe write some comments on a piece of paper or on the back of the photo, and our staff would scan that into the information so it's all available. Let's see. Can you remind us when we upload pics of the property? You can only add attachments, whether it's photos, an appraisal, or so forth, after you have submitted your appeal. Then you can do the attachments. Without the appeal being submitted, you can't add any additional documentation. So you submit the appeal first, and then you could add documents, whether it's photos, contract of sale, an appraisal, and so forth. And for those saying thank you for the presentation, it is truly our pleasure. I really enjoy doing this. I enjoy helping people, and this is a great way for me to help lots of people in one time. Let's see. Someone's asking about differences, whether they have a pool and a neighbor doesn't, but they're mentioning appeal and assessment value. Again, you can't use someone else's assessed value as a comparison for yours. You have to use sales. Now, so if you're looking at homes and you find out one of the sales has a pool, but you don't, in the comments section, if you're including that comparable in Part E, I would make sure you say, hey, by the way, I don't have a pool, but this sale has a pool. And this way that could be taken into account. So maybe that home sold for $20,000 more than a typical home in the area would sell for because it had a pool. Make sure we know that. Put that in the comments. Someone's asking if what we are doing now with filing the appeal like this, is that the same way that the companies that charge fees do? I think they have different methodologies in terms of submitting more than one at a time. I don't know exactly because I don't get involved in that part of the system. All I can tell you is this. When we look at the appeals, we don't care who it comes from. We look at the property. The companies do not have an unfair advantage over you. In fact, in my opinion, you have an advantage over them because you have information about your home, about your property, about your location that these companies don't know. So don't worry about what the companies could or may or do, whatever. Concentrate on what you can tell us that'll show that you deserve a reduction. Use Part D to your advantage. Use Part E if you have some good sales and so forth. Add some attachments. Take the time. I look at way too many appeals submitted by people that have nothing in Part D. And then I look at the map and I'm like, is there something funky about this that I'm not seeing? Well, if it was told to me in Part D, I would know to look. Take the extra few minutes. Put the information in Part D. Take advantage of something that you have over the companies that don't take the time to do that. Jeff, you wanted to jump in?
Yeah, I think you got to look, Rob. It's, again, you tell the people like, well, these companies, they get reductions and I don't, because that's what they get paid to do. If they don't get a reduction, they don't get paid. So they're putting in all the extra work. So you really, like Rob's saying, put in, your house better than anybody else. You look at all those things, take pictures of everything, upload every piece of information you possibly can, because it's not going to hurt you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's see. We got a question. Someone asked, my house, or if we have a house on a secondary highway with a double yellow line, would that get a reduction? And then what if we're also close to a police station or by a town hall opposite the house? Would we get even further reductions? We take everything into account. So if you have multiple factors that make your location inferior to somebody else, so a house is on a quiet street, but your house is on a busy road next to a firehouse, so you get all the sirens, plus it backs to commercial, put that all in Part D. We look at multiple factors. If multiple factors have an impact on your value, then we will look at all those factors. Absolutely. Don't just assume, well, I put one and I can't put more. Anything you think would impact your ability to sell your home for the price you wanted to sell it for, put it in there. I mentioned this before, I'll mention it again. Can filing an appeal have a negative outcome? Nope. If you file an appeal, you can either be told that there is no case for a reduction, or you could be offered a reduction and then you have the option to accept it or not. You cannot get your assessed value increased because you filed an appeal. So there really is no risk to filing an appeal. But it's a great question. Let's see, we've answered a similar question already. Another compliment, I'll say thank you for that. Let's see, how do you compare if your house like yours has a lot of improvements? And okay, if you are comparing your home to other sales and they've been renovated more than yours, you can mention in the additional comments section or type up a Word document and tell us that I know for a fact that while my home hasn't been updated for 20 years, this house has been updated and has all these brand new, fixtures and so forth. Let us know what's going on. Again, if you send us comparables, we're going to look at them all. And if there are some sales that have been renovated, some sales that have not been renovated, because we don't know about your house, the interior, we're going to kind of take a little of the high, a little of the low, and kind of take that all into account. So, but whatever information you have, especially if it's provable, if you have like a copy of an MLS form that's got interior photos that says this house was gut renovated a year ago and your house hasn't been done in 20 years, let us know the information. Someone asked you this question, Jeff. I can answer it, but they asked it to you. So it says, Receiver Privado, if I grieved last year, should I grieve again this year?
Absolutely. I grieve every year. I grieve my taxes every year because, like I said before, you're not grieving and someone else does, the money's got to be paid by somebody. So you could actually get another reduction this year. Always look at it that way.
Absolutely. And each year is taken separately. So definitely I agree with what the receiver of taxes said. Thomas, maybe a question for you. If the address is too long for filing again, actually, I'm not sure what they're asking on that one. I don't know if they mean their actual address doesn't fit in the line.
I don't know what they're talking about.
Okay, well, Anonymous, you asked that question. What is the address to log into? Oh, I'm sorry. I get it now. What is the address to log? I thought they meant long. The address to log into for filing again. You're going to go to askarcnassau.com. And then when you get to our website, you are going to either click on the link to register. If you've never registered before, you would go to Arrow. And then once you're in the Arrow system, you would either go to register from Arrow, or you could file an appeal or go to Sales Locator, depending on how you're going to do this. And again, you can watch the video that's on our homepage to tell you which one you should go to first, whether it's you've already registered, you have to log in, you want to go to Sales Locator, you want to file an appeal. But the place to start is askarcnassau.com and then choose Arrow on the left-hand side. And my apologies for reading the question wrong. Okay, I bought my house a year ago, but just refinanced and it was appraised for more. Is that a good thing or a bad thing when appealing for assessment? Well, if your home was appraised for more, again, you're comparing it not to what your other value was when you refinanced or what you bought the house for a year ago, but you want to compare it to what its other sales are. So you have to compare it also to your assessed value. Remember, first off, we don't know that you had your house refinanced, and we don't know what it's appraised for unless you tell us about that. But you are comparing everything to what your current assessment. So in our example, it says our taxable market value is $467,000. If you bought your house a year ago for $425,000, you can let us know you bought it for a year ago because that's under the current market value and it may help your case. But if you had it refinanced 3 months ago and it was appraised for more than your taxable market value, well, then you probably don't want to mention that you refinanced because that appraisal is not going to help your case. But again, you're comparing it to the taxable market value, not so much prior sales, especially if they're dated sales. I hope I explained that correctly. Let's see. Tom, you may want to handle this one. Can someone go over the settlement letter language with level of assessment, tentative assessment value, and so forth?
I don't have a copy of the letter in front of me, but basically what you're starting out with, if you're made an offer, you have an adjusted tentative and an original tentative. The original tentative is what you started out with, beginning of the tax year. That was determined by the Department of Assessment. The adjusted tentative is what is worked off of when they look to see if your property warrants a reduction. The next segment on that stipulation offer letter would be reduction, and that is the amount that they reduce your assessed value by. So that, depending on what year you're filing your grievance, if it's 22-23 tax year, that reduction of, in this particular case he mentions 37, that reduction of 37 points or 37,000 in market value will be effective this coming October. First with your school tax bill, and then the following January with your general tax bill. So basically, the stipulation letter gives you those three figures.
Got it. Thank you, Tom. And again, if you have any questions and you're not sure if we've helped you enough here, give customer service a call tomorrow, and they may be able to pull up your actual information while they're speaking to you, and that may be able to help you go through line by line and so forth. So again, customer service is 516-571-3214. Here's a good question. The current tentative assessment value is based on 2021-2022 values. We have got a reduction in 2022-23 value by arrow. Will the 2023-2024 tentative assessment value be updated after April 1st? I want to bring up the calendar here because it gets a little confusing because things get overlapped in terms of year to year. If you'll notice that it takes over a year to go through all the grievances. So for example, and this hopefully answers your question, the filing period is now, it's been extended, it ends on May 2nd. From the end of the filing period until March 31st of next year, we review the 2023 and 2024 appeals and make determinations. At the end of next March, we send out the final determination letters, and then the final assessment roll is published April 3rd. So the roll from the last session is going to get published, I believe, the first week in April as well. Tom, am I saying that correctly?
A homeowner who received a reduction for the 22-23 tax year, the Department of Assessment values will be updated on their site on April 1st of this year. So the 2024 is a tentative number. It's a completely separate tax year. So that's a tentative number that when you file an appeal, that's the number you will use on your 23-24 tax year. That doesn't get set until April 1st of 2023.
Thank you, Tom. Okay, going on here. We have, whoa, lots of questions here. Okay. We have several questions that are talking about the fact that values have gone up because of COVID, which is true, and it may make it more difficult to find comparable sales that help support a reduction. That is definitely true. If you can't find comparable sales that you think are going to support a reduction, then don't include any comparable sales and focus on Part D. You may not be able to find comparable sales that support a reduction. You can't make them up out of thin air. And yes, values have been going up. Now, I know there's a freeze on values, but again, finding sales is often a way to show that you're overassessed, but it's not the only way. So if you can't find comparable sales that support a reduction, leave Part E blank, focus on Part D. Focus on the things you have the information on, location issues, things about your house and so forth. Again, as I said before, you can't just make up sales out of thin air. You can only use what's available there. So if sales aren't helping your case, don't put in sales in your appeal and focus on Part D. Okay, it's important to understand that If you file an appeal and didn't get a reduction, the assessment is done individually each year. So 1 year has nothing to do with the next year. So if you didn't get a reduction 1 year, it doesn't mean you shouldn't file the next, because you may get a reduction. Each year is taken on an individual basis. Okay, we had a question about the weights. Let's go to that page and talk about the weights. And as Michael told them, the weighting of sales is entirely optional. You make the decision whether you want to change the weights. Automatically, it does an average. So you have 3 sales, it adds them up, divides by 3, that's the average. You may feel that one of the sales better supports your reduction request. You may feel that a sale that's sold for less or adjusted for less is going to help you more. So you want to change the math. So again, you'd go to weight and say sale 1 is the one you want to put most weight on, that you want to lean most of the emphasis on. So you could change that to 50%, change the other 2 sales 25% each, or if you want to do 30% on one and 20% on the other, as long as it equals 100%, you're fine. And if you change that weight, when you get to the part where it shows you the results for selected sales, you'll see the average adjusted sale price and the weighted adjusted sale price are different. But again, this is entirely optional. You can make this change or you can keep it the way it is. It's entirely up to you. Great question. Every time I grieve my taxes or grieve your assessment, it will correct you there. Am I grieving the original assessed value or the one that was approved last year? Each year is different. So you are appealing the assessed value for that period. So let's go to that page there. You'll notice it says assessment information 2023, 2024. Taxable market value is $467,000. The assessed value is $467,000. That is what you are grieving for this year, for this period. Each year is done separately. So if you got a reduction last year, you don't go by what you're not filing the appeal based on your reduction from last year. You are filing based on the current assessed value that they are telling you. So again, in this example, for this appeal period, the taxable market value is $467,000. You feel your house is worth much less than that, so you're going to file an appeal. But each year is taken separately. Here's another great thing, and I don't typically mention this because it gets a little confusing, but someone is asking if we could change the adjustments in Sales Locator. The answer is yes. If you want to change the adjustments, if you feel that the adjustments Sales Locator is making and they're not enough, well, then you can go in here to where it says View, Edit, Custom Adjustments at the bottom of the page, and you can click on that and change the numbers. You could change the math. Okay. We are almost out of time because we're going to get kicked out of the meeting at 9 o'clock. I was just given a 5-minute warning by the software. So I'm going to go through as many of these questions as we can. Again, there is a lot of information on our website, including a frequently asked questions page. So if we didn't get to your question, or if you have a question that you want more information on, go to our FAQ page on our website, give our customer service folks a call. They can answer these questions and many, many more. And they could also get into very specific questions about your property in terms of how you do things and so forth that I can't answer here because it's more of a general forum. So, Jeff, as we're running out of time, is there anything you want to add before we get kicked out by Bill Gates?
Rob, I just want to thank you and your team, Tom and Michael, for helping out here tonight. It was a great presentation, a lot of information. I think we helped out a lot of people here tonight. And like I said, if you have any questions there's the number on the screen, the 571-3214 number. Also look for more. We're going to do a couple, since it's been extended the period, we're going to do we're probably going to do at least 2 more grievance live seminars in April and March and April, 1 day a week. We're going to do 2 more. Might do another virtual one since this worked out so great. We'll look at Rob and his schedule, but a lot of information here tonight, folks. I hope you all got something out of this, and remember, always grieve every year. Add as much information as you possibly can. Like we said, you guys know your house better than anybody else. Look at your house. Be like, all right, if I'm going to buy this house, what am I looking at? What are the negatives? Okay, there's high power tension wire, there's a stop sign, double yellow line, schools, parks, commercial, railroads, all that kind of stuff. More information you put in, the more it helps your case. And I just want to close it out. Again, thank you, Rob, and your whole team. Thank you to all the residents out there that came on tonight. I think it was a record number. Rob will give you the number afterwards. It's a great program. And everybody have a good night, good weekend. If you're going away for the school break, enjoy your time away.
Thank you very much again. And folks, we're going to try and see if we can maybe answer some of these questions offline if we have a few minutes. I want to thank Tom and Michael, who helped out both in front of the microphone and behind the scenes. We appreciate everybody joining us. Again, call customer service 516-571-3214. The deadline is May 2nd. Please do not wait until the last minute. We thank you all for joining us, and I wish you all a pleasant evening.